I've been looking forward to this conversation all day long, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Thanks for being here, guys. Thank you. Tonight's guest, Nicole Lanni, is sharing information and special gifts that can be pivotal. I mean, seriously instrumental in improving your health, your happiness, and your life. So get ready. This is going to be a fast 30 minutes. This moment in time is really calling to us to step up our game regarding our health and our well-being. And that's what the Quantum Well-Being Show is dedicated to, increasing well-being. And thank you. Thank you for supporting the well-being of this show and all of our shows on Broadcast Team Alpha by using the super chat function or by sending a donation to broadcastteamalpha@gmail.com PayPal. Matt can put the link in the chat. We are growing in leaps and bounds, guys. We're expanding, and you can find us on 32 platforms and streams. And you can also check us out at the Conscious Awakening Network, where we're co-creating with our friends over there. It's really fun. Nicole's work is so close to my heart, guys. If you know me, you know that I had black mold toxicity, and it is nothing to sneeze at. I know, sorry guys, I couldn't help myself. Mold illness, or any illness that wreaks havoc with your immune system, can put your life on hold in ways that are deeply painful, disruptive on so many levels, not just the physical, the spiritual, the soul as well. So let me tell you about Nicole so we can dive into the conversation that you're waiting to hear. Nicole Lanni is a nutritionist. She's a certified health coach. She is a functional blood work specialist, which I cannot wait to talk about. Nicole helps people who are frustrated with the state of their health, and she helps them heal at the cellular level. She does it through nutrition, cellular detoxing, functional blood work, and her clients' nutritional DNA profiles, which I can't wait to talk about either. Mm-hmm. Also, Nicole is the founder of Help You Get Healthy, great name. And after Nicole was exposed to toxic mold over 20 years ago, she suffered from brain fog, chronic coughing, swelling, inflammation throughout the body, weight loss resistance. A lot of people don't know that that's classic mold symptoms. And she had autoimmune symptoms, right? If you have autoimmune, or if you think you have autoimmune, we're going to talk about some of those symptoms. You know what I'm talking about. But inflammation and autoimmune go hand in hand. We're going to talk about that. After Nicole exhausted everything medically and holistically, after years of suffering, she finally got to the root cause. I love that word, the root cause of all her symptoms, and she healed herself on the cellular level. Nicole took it even further, and she used her DNA, I love this, guys, listen to this, to create a health blueprint to turn off the genes of the conditions that she was predisposed to, like Alzheimer's, heart disease, even addiction. And she did it through nutrition, through supplements. And after a few short months, she got back 20 years of her lost health. Nicole is a certified nutritionist, a cellular health coach. She's a functional blood work specialist. She is a master NLP trainer, so you will love to talk with her. She's also close to my heart. She's a hypnotherapist. And through doctors' referrals and previous clients' recommendations, Nicole has combined all of her magical skills to help more than 5,000 clients reduce inflammation, which is the leading cause of most disease. Nicole's been featured on This Is LA, the CBS News. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's been on over 100 stages. She speaks on topics that include women's empowerment, health, nutrition, inflammation, and underneath all of it, releasing negative thoughts and emotion. Nicole is needed right now. She is so right on time. So let's talk. Welcome, Nicole. Welcome.
Welcome, Nori. Thank you so much. What a blessing to be on your show today. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk with you. You've been a nutritionist for 17 years?
17 years, yes.
So I want to get into everything that you do, but how did that come about for you? I always like the personal part first.
Sure. So when I had the mold toxicity, it was actually in my lungs. And I was one of the few people that actually had Stachybotrys, which is a black mold growing inside of my lung.
My sister.
And so, right?
Yeah.
And so they couldn't figure out how to get it out. And I was so sick. I was literally on my deathbed at that point. And so they had done a bronchoscopy trying to get it out, didn't come out, did a second bronchoscopy because it was literally, they could actually see a mass in my lung at this point. Yeah. And on the third bronchoscopy, I didn't wake up. And so I was in a coma for 4.5 months.
No way.
Yeah, due to mold. And so when I decided to have my reawakening and join the world again, I had the most fantabulous doctor. And he really, I get teary-eyed every time I tell this story. I kind of get emotional.
Of course.
Yeah. I asked him, I had teenagers at home. And so I asked him, Dr. Thompson, what do I need to do to live? And he said, well, you need a few things. And he says, this is what I think you need. He says, number one, he says, I don't know what your faith is. I think you're Christian, but I'm not sure. And he says, but whatever your faith is, whether you pray to a cat or a rock or to God or to whatever, I need you to magnify that by 10. And when you have that, then I need you to magnify it by 100, because you have to have faith and believe that you are going to get better. He said, the second thing that you need is you need me. And he says, and I'm not saying that because I'm not cocky at all. He says, I'm not godlike like some doctors are. He says, but you need me because I've put together over 30 people in this country trying to figure out how to get this mold out of your lung. And it's so important to remember to always hire doctors that are humble enough to remember that they're practicing medicine. We don't have all the answers. We practice medicine.
Wow.
And he says, so if a doctor doesn't realize they're practicing medicine, find a different doctor.
Yes.
He says, the third thing you need is some holistic health. And he says, I really think we need to get you out of a hospital and into life and try all kinds of things. We need to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what works, because I do believe the answers are outside of these walls. So he put me with a nutritionist to really, anything that she thought would exasperate mold came out of my diet for a period of time. Instead of going to physical therapy, because, when you're in a coma, you're in, your muscles are in bad shape. So instead of going to physical therapy, his 65-year-old wife used to pick me up and she would take me to yoga 3 times a week. And I'd literally sit on the back wall and just kind of stretch because I wasn't moving very fast. She could run circles around me at that point. And so I was bound and determined to be like her. And then eventually he put me in now this was 20 years ago, so it was still very new, was hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah.
And so they treated me as if I had the bends and put me in a hyperbaric chamber 5 days a week, 2 days off, 5 days a week, 2 days off. And we did that for a month. And I think between the combination of all of that is when I actually finally started to heal.
Wow.
And I made him a promise that if I lived, that I would pass this on.
Oh, Nicole.
And so
I'm blown away by your story. Yeah.
He really saved my life and gave me back my life with my family. So unfortunately, I still had symptoms. I still had things. I still had, I had all these autoimmune symptoms and I managed them. I would manage them. And I was just grateful that I had every day. Having every day was so important because I really lost 4.5 months with my children. And so I just tried to live this life of, even if I had these symptoms, it was better to have symptoms than not be alive.
Than to be in a coma. Yeah.
And then to be in a coma. And so I kind of took that and went, okay, well, this is now what I deal with. And in my mind, I was like, okay, well, this is okay. But the bottom line is he got me to that point, and then I needed to figure out how to get to the next point and how do you get healthy. And that was the more important part. And it just took, an extra 16, 17 years before I figured it out. But wow. I did become a nutritionist. Wow. I really delved into NLP. I changed my mindset so much.
Yes.
Hypnotherapy definitely helped me through. I've certified over 1,000 hypnotherapists. I love that our mind has the power to change, change who we are and what, how our behaviors, right? Yes. And so I love that. And so, but I knew there was more. I really wanted to work in the wellness field. So using the nutrition side, and then eventually, I did become a certified health coach because I wasn't certified. So I became the certified health coach. And eventually I ended up working as a blood work specialist, which really has impacted and changed my business.
Tell me about that, please. The nurse in me has to know.
So, when we look at blood work, oftentimes we don't feel well. And I'm sure as a nurse, you've experienced this with patients where somebody doesn't feel well and their blood work looks pretty normal. Doctors will say, oh, they're holding it up and, oh, this looks normal. I don't know what's going on with you. Well, when I became a functional blood work specialist, instead of looking at the numbers like the size of the United States, we look at numbers like the size of Oklahoma. Okay. So the numbers are shrunk down. And there was a Dr. Daddis who put these numbers together, working with thousands and thousands of clients of where they felt the best, especially people with autoimmune symptoms, which was fascinating to me. And then Dr. Kylie Burton came in and fine-tuned that even more. And she is just a brilliant, brilliant woman. And so I really started studying under her, and it literally has changed my clients, what I see in their blood work. So today, for an example, somebody said, hey, Nicole, could you just glance over my CBC with differential? And I said, absolutely. So I'm looking at their CBC and I said, oh, you have I said, have you ever had mono, or did you ever be diagnosed with Epstein-Barr? And she's like, how did you know that? Mm-hmm. And she says, there's never been a doctor that's asked me that. And I said, oh, I can tell in your numbers. And so we're just trained very differently, more specifically, to look to see what underlying bacteria infections you might have, what underlying viruses that you might still be carrying in your body. And what we've learned over the time now is when you take care of those underlying viruses or underlying bacteria or underlying fungus or candida, whatever it might be, guess what? You start regaining your health. Your body doesn't have, those are the things that are triggering your health issues oftentimes. Yes. And then we look at cholesterol a little differently as well. Yeah. Because we see cholesterol, we know it's not just food. And often doctors will say, you just need to change your diet, but they don't tell them what to do. They just say, you need to change your diet. Right. And so people are like, people don't like change. People are like, they're afraid of change, or they're afraid to change. Like, oh my gosh, I can't give up whatever cookies, or I can't give up cheese, or I can't give up whatever it might be. They have these things they have to hold on to super, super tight. And so they're afraid to change. So I think the hypnotherapy and the NLP background helps so much because, we can just switch some belief systems that, they've created in their minds. And so we can just switch those around a little bit and then help them on the nutritional side, and then help them on the, with getting rid of these infections. So with cholesterol, I look at things of, do they have a blood sugar issue? Or is this a hormonal issue? Or is this really truly a food issue? Because oftentimes cholesterol isn't just food. Mm-hmm. Is this a stress issue? And so we can see that in the numbers. So it's very different to have this scaled down version of blood work. And it's amazing what's coming out of it. It just excites me every day.
I can only imagine, really.
Yeah, it really excites me. I have a client recently that she wasn't feeling good for years. And she honestly thought she had parasites, and her doctor had her do some, testing for parasites, and they came out negative. And she had all these autoimmune symptoms, which is why she originally came to me. And I looked at her blood work and I said, darling, you have parasites. And she's like, no, my doctor said I don't. And I said, oh, you really do. And so she was to the point where it was almost as if she was a hypochondriac, and every little thing became bigger because she was told for so long she didn't have these things and that she should take Prozac because it was her anxiety that was causing this. Well, the anxiety was coming from not having a diagnosis. Right. And so we kind of look beyond having a diagnosis, because I think we work as treating people, not treating a diagnosis. Right.
Exactly.
And so what's amazing is she is now releasing these parasites, and she feels so much better. It scares the daylights out of her because she's had some rather large parasites come out of her. Yes. But, she wasn't crazy. She wasn't crazy. And now we're able to help her. And with mold, the same thing. Mold is so misdiagnosed. And again, it looks like autoimmune symptoms. And then if we can, look at it and go, okay, where did this stem from, and what's really going on with the blood work, and how do we get rid of this fungus? Because that's really, it's a fungus, and we get rid of those underlying infections. Then people who had mold toxicity, they regain their life. Yes. And if you look at pictures of me from like 3 years ago and now, I really do look like I've lost 20 years. So it's pretty amazing. I wish I had a before and after to show you.
I wish you did too. I would love to see them, but
you can go on my Facebook page and see it.
Okay, I will. I want to go back for a minute to the parasites.
Yeah.
Can't having parasites in your body create brain fog and thinking function, because there's something living in your body.
Yeah, it definitely changes your cognitive thinking. It changes, it changes, like, you become some people become a little paranoid. A lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of weight loss. There's a lot of things that happen with parasites. And it's so misdiagnosed where this doctor's like, look, you just need to, you're a mom. You just need to go get some, you have a lot of stress. You need to go get some Prozac. But that wasn't the case at all. She was physically becoming ill, and ill in her mind as well, because she had these critters living inside of her. And of course, she's like, where did I get them? And I'm like, well, we're not testing the actual parasite. So you could have got it swimming in a lake, in a river. You could have eaten something that was contaminated. You could have touched an animal that was contaminated and maybe didn't wash your hands well enough. Yes. I tell people all the time, the good thing about COVID, I don't think there was much good about COVID, other than I think families got time together. I think that part was good. But wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. If you swim in a lake, or you swim in the ocean, or you swim somewhere, make sure to take a really good shower afterwards, right? Because, it's super important to get anything off of there that you might have contracted. So it's really important to do.
Exactly. I mean, when we were little, I'm older than you, but when we were little, we went intentionally walking in mud puddles with no shoes on, so right? Who knows? Yeah. So tell me about the DNA blueprint.
Oh, I love the DNA. So the DNA is, so it's nutritional DNA. So it's not your ethnicity. We're actually testing your genetics to see what you're predisposed for, whether that's Alzheimer's, heart disease, the MFTHR gene. You hear that one a lot. A lot of people have had that done. They don't know what that is. So you hear, we have all these genes. They're called SNPs. And so when we see what these are, we can actually give you for Alzheimer's, for example. I'll use that as an example. I have a very high rate of having Alzheimer's. Both of my grandmothers passed away of Alzheimer's. Okay. Wow. So with the Alzheimer's, it will tell me exactly, I have all of the genes for Alzheimer's. So, but that gives me a chance to know what foods to eat and what supplements to take to literally turn off that gene. Right.
That's incredible.
And so, there's so much science. It's epigenetics is really what it is. So we're about 99.9% all the same DNA, which people don't realize. And then that 0.1% is what makes us unique. And so it's in that 0.1% that we can actually see what we're predisposed for. And the thing is like people used to say, like my mom had heart disease, right? And she passed away at a very young age. She was 63. That's young, right?
Yes.
And so, when I look at that and I was like, wow, I have this opportunity to not have heart disease, right? Now, genetically, I'm disposed, but I have the healthiest heart ever. And so, and it's so nice that I know what I'm predisposed for, because then I know what to eat, what to do, what supplements to take for myself, and how to keep, and then I also, the third thought part is the stress. You need to keep your stress reduction as low as you can, right? That's super important. So knowing what to eat, what supplements to take for your body, and and what's the best way for you to relieve stress is super important.
Very important. So,
and with those three things, we can keep those genes actually turned off.
Well, keeping stress down is like a show in and of itself, because everybody is so stressed right now. But let's talk about things that I'm seeing things go by in the chat room. People are wondering what the symptoms of autoimmune, what are the classic symptoms?
The classic symptoms of autoimmune. Oh, there's so many. Brain fog is the number one. I would say brain fog, IBS. So whether it's constipation, diarrhea, or a combination thereof, that's very common. Joint pain is very common. So digestive issues, joint pain, brain fog are three of the most major things that you see. So, and oftentimes, like I said, you don't necessarily get a diagnosis. Maybe you don't have lupus, or you don't have, rheumatoid arthritis, or you don't have, and so oftentimes, or you might not have Hashimoto's, or you might not have a hyperthyroid. So these things might still be happening, but you're not testing positive for that. So here's what we've learned about that. When you have cellular inflammation, right? So here's our little cell. The thyroid produces our T4, and we need this hormone in our bodies to run properly. And what happens is it's knocking on the door to the cell. Knock, 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 let me in, let me in. And the cell's so inflamed that it's not getting in. So it still shows that you have T4 in your bloodstream, because it's there. It's trying to do its job. It's trying to talk, but that cell is not letting it in. And so what happens is when that hormone's not getting into the cell because it's so inflamed, right? That's when all our inflammation in our body happens. That's the biggest thing with autoimmune, I guess, is the inflammation, as of most diseases. And so it's knocking on that door saying, let us in. So until we get rid of that cellular inflammation, those hormones just can't properly connect with the cells. And so that's how we can start healing on that more cellular level, is when we learn how to get that cellular inflammation actually down, and then it can communicate. Now, the worst part about that is the reason people get brain fog is because that cell is so inflamed and that hormone's not going in. But guess what? The toxins that we consume in our body, whether it's through food, environment, cleaning products, whatever it is in our homes and in our life, we can only control what's in our homes, not outside of our homes, right? Those toxins can't get out. So it's almost like having a fireplace where you have the flume that's closed and those toxins can't get out. So that causes joint pain, leaky gut, inflammation. And so once we get those cells uninflamed, people get healthier.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people, my friends at this point in my life, are thinking that, joint pain and swollen joints are just a natural part of aging, but they're not. And I was thinking back to the height of my inflammatory process from Stachybotrys. I had Stachybotrys as well. My face was so swollen, Nicole. It was so puffy that I didn't even recognize myself. So that's probably something people could look for, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. The puffiness, like I was so swollen, joint pain, puffiness. And so And like I said, if we can look at your blood work, usually I can say, okay, this was mold exposure, or this is an autoimmune. I can look at somebody's blood work in 2 seconds, say you're having autoimmune symptoms.
I love it.
And so it's just because it's just so scaled down and we're looking at numbers so differently. And once, we don't have to have joint pain. Now, here's a funny story real quick. I know we're getting close to time. My husband had arthritis. My husband had arthritis in his shoulder. And God forbid that your husband ever follows something that, like, this is what I do for a living. But, to be my patient or my client was the furthest thing from his mind. So I finally said, honey, why don't you just do my program? It's 5 months of your life. You're in your, he's 68 years old now. So do my program. I mean, what's really, when you think about it, what's 4 to 6 months out of your life versus the rest of your life that you have to live with your family. Right. And because he was like, I'm from Italy. I don't think I can give up pasta. I said, you can give up pasta for a few months. And so it was so funny. So he went on my plan, and this is how we literally put his testimonial up on my new website. But it's funny because he'll tell people, I don't know exactly what she did. I just had to do this food thing for a while. And then I had to take these supplements, and then the pain just went away and it hasn't come back. It's been 2 years and I can raise my arm like this and it doesn't hurt anymore. And he says, I keep waiting for it to come back, but it just hasn't come back. And now I eat pasta.
And it hasn't come back too.
And it has not come back. So it was really, those cells had just been inflamed for so long to where that arthritis was so bad, it was locking up his shoulder. But once we got rid of that cellular inflammation, and now he does take supplements that work for his body, then he hasn't had any pain since. So it's pretty amazing. I love his story.
It's a good story, especially because it's your husband and it's so counterintuitive, because most family members are like, no, no, don't do Reiki on me. That weird. Yeah. So I get it.
Yeah, but don't do the energy thing on me.
Right. Yeah. But it would help. But okay. So what is your program? What does it look like? And how does somebody get in your program?
So my program, you can go to my website at helpyougethealthy.com. And it has 4 different webinars. So we rotate webinars. And so, or you can just book a consultation. I'll do a free consultation with you as well. But we do 4 rotating webinars. And so I will go in person. If somebody wants me to go in person, I'll go in person now. But we're still doing a lot on Zoom, obviously. But what those 4 things are is how to read your own blood work. So I actually teach you how to read your own CBC. And so you know what to look for. The second one is healing your leaky gut. So we call it good gut, good food, good vibes. So that's the second one. The third one is, are you frustrated with your health? And that one is really aimed more towards people with autoimmune symptoms. And then the fourth one is releasing negative emotions for your health. And so we rotate those 4 webinars. And so you can hop on any of them. They're always free. And we give you information. And then if you want to book consults or you want to join one of our programs, if it's a leaky gut program or an autoimmune program, or you just want a personal consult, we can do any of those things.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. I love it. I love it. And when you say we, are there...
I do have a team. So
okay, tell me about your team.
Yeah, so I have a team. So I have a mindset coach that works with me, and her name is Bren, and her business is Shine with Bren. She is an NLP trainer as well, and a hypnotherapist. And so she's fabulous. And then I have a pharmacist on my team as well.
Wow.
So if somebody's, my goal is to get people off of their medications. So if people are on medications, I have him in our back pocket where we can say, these are the medications. What is, and we sit and we figure out what is the best path to wean people off of their medications so they can live a drug-free life. And so having Robert on my team is fabulous. And then I have a couple of people that I'm always collaborating with doctors and with clinical directors and my supplement company that I can actually go to them, and they're part of my team as well, where I can get any answers that you could ever imagine feasible when it comes to your health.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. So we're going to go over just a little bit.
Okay.
Just the, an overview. What should we be eating? Thank you, Nancy Volker, for your super chat. Thank you. What should we really be eating? Ballpark overview.
So we should be eating lots of fruit, lots of vegetables, and lots of meat. So a lot of people are like, vegan or this or that isn't necessarily good. Like they think vegan or being a vegetarian is good for them, but we are carnivores. So we do need meat in our diet. But I always tell people, if you're going to eat meat, spend a little bit of extra money, get grass-fed beef, organic chicken, make sure, wild caught fish or seafood. You want those natural things into your body. So if you do have some leaky gut issues, I always say the best thing is we look at if it's bacteria or fungal or viral, we'll get that infection out of you, and to go off meat for about 2 weeks, because bacteria does breed in certain meats. So we want you to be vegetarian for about 2 weeks, and then we introduce fish and seafood in first, and then we start putting poultry and beef back in. And so, but really you want to eat 5 to 8 cups of fruits and vegetables every single day. There's so many nutrients that we actually get from our food. And yes, I know our gland is a little bit more depleted than it used to be, but we still need those. We need to chew and digest our food. We're meant to chew and digest. There's a lot of supplements that we can take that can add some of those things in, but chewing and digestion is so important to our bodies. So, and to drink at least half your body weight in ounces in water. So that's super important as well. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you should be drinking about 75 ounces of water a day. If you weigh 200 pounds, about 100 ounces. If you weigh 300 pounds, 100 ounces. We don't want you going much over 100 ounces unless you're really sweating and working out. So, and then to keep some electrolytes in your water is important as well. So how you can do that super, super easy, a little tip is just take some pink Himalayan salt or some sea salt, just put a pinch of it in your water. That will give you natural electrolytes. So you're not drinking Gatorade, you're not drinking red dye number 49 or 12 or 18 or whatever that is these days. And so you're getting your actual electrolytes from some sea salt or mineral salt.
Right. And tell me your take on this. Okay. There's water, and then there's all the other stuff that people drink, and all the other stuff like tea and coffee and whatever else that isn't water, that doesn't count toward your water intake.
It does not count towards your water intake. Yeah, it doesn't count. So here's my water, right? And I know like how many I drink a day. And then I am a tea drinker. So oftentimes people see me on a podcast with a teacup, right? Like I'll have my teacup and they're like, she's not drinking water, but I do get my water in every single day. And then to make sure that then whatever you drink other than that, I drink kombucha and tea. Those are my 2 things. And so kombucha for my gut, tea for my brain. I need it for my brain. And so, and for the comfort, tea brings me comfort. So I do drink a cup of tea for comfort as well. So, but that doesn't count towards your water intake. You still need that. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Tell me about your cooking show.
Oh, so I just started a new cooking show and we're uploading videos. So there'll be more. There's only a few on there now, but it is Good Vibes Cooking Show on YouTube. And I'm just teaching healthy healing recipes. It's me in my kitchen. It's very just me being kind of goofy at times and just being real. Like if you were to go to your best friend's kitchen, this is what you're going to see in my kitchen. And it's really to teach people that eating healthy can be good and nutritious and delicious, because I think people think that healthy food doesn't taste good, but it really does. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It does taste good.
It does taste amazing. So
it does. And for people who don't know yet, right, the people who are just venturing into this new realm of eating, once your taste buds get uncovered from all of the bad stuff that the stuff that has not been good for us, once that begins to go away, you discover the way foods really, really, really do taste. Yeah.
It's amazing how good food tastes. And that's the discovery is, once we get all the sugars out of your body, really is what it is. And, it's amazing that you can taste something and go, oh, I never knew it tasted like this. It's just amazing what really happens. And teaching people that they can eat salad for breakfast or they can eat breakfast for dinner. So it's so funny. We have this concept of, sometimes I like to have breakfast for dinner. Your people will say, right? Yeah. And then I say to them, well, have you ever had dinner for breakfast? And sometimes they look at me like I have two heads. And I'm like, look, leftovers are amazing for breakfast. Yes. Because if you're cooking a healthy dinner, there's nothing wrong with you having dinner for breakfast. And that's so sometimes we have to change mindset too, of like, we just have these are breakfast foods, these are lunch foods, these are dinner foods. And the bottom line is food is food. It doesn't matter what time of day we eat them. Food is food. Right. So we can eat great food throughout the day. I love to eat salad for breakfast. Like it's one of my favorite things to eat for breakfast is a salad.
That sounds really fresh and awakening. Yeah, I like it.
It's light, it's fresh, it's not heavy. You can put some protein in there to give you some energy. And I love it. So oftentimes you'll see me drinking a cup of tea and eating a salad for breakfast. It's so not the norm, but
I love
it's great.
Yeah. I love it. So I have a personal question, and it's a nurse question because I don't always get to ask it, and because the patients that I would want to have asked, I don't have contact with. Do you remember anything from when you were in those 4 months? You do?
Yes.
Tell me.
I love that you're asking me that. So it would be sometimes months later. So I would remember things like, okay, it's so funny, some of the memories. I was like, one time I was like, oh, those are the most beautiful tiger lilies that were in my room.
Huh.
Now, what a weird flower to remember, right? Because tiger lilies stand out from, we're used to seeing roses and, some mixed bouquets. Sure. And then I was like, did my attorney bring me, I had an attorney at the time. Did my attorney bring me those flowers? Well, and then I was like, he was reading me briefs and I would laugh. So I called him and I was like, Jeff, did you used to come in my room and read me briefs? He said, I did. He said, because I just always knew that I felt like if I sat with you, he says it was quiet so I could get work done. But then I read my briefs out loud because that way, I was connecting with you. I was hoping I was connecting with you. And I said, did you bring me flowers? He says, oh, my wife and I brought you flowers every week. We always wanted you, when you woke up, we wanted you to have flowers in your room. And then my son, one night, he said, Mama, he was in band. He's like, can I go out with the guys in band and go to this party? Yeah, high school, right?
Right.
And I said, no, you're grounded tonight. He's like, what did I do? He's like, I didn't do anything. Why am I grounded? I said, you came in my room and you pierced your own ears with safety pins, didn't you? And your ears were like this swollen. And he's like, yes. I said, no, you're not going out tonight. You're grounded for one night. He's like, you can't ground me 9 months later for something I did.
Wow. Isn't that interesting?
It's so interesting that I would have these little things that would creep up that I would definitely remember, but it wasn't like whole days or whole big conversations. It was just like flashes of little pieces. And I do remember at one point, it's like, I don't know if it's really what I thought or if I felt like I told myself it was time to wake up.
I love it.
It's time. It's time. You're ready now. You're ready.
I love it. I believe that happened. And
so I do believe it happened. Some people, are like, are you sure? And I'm like, I do believe I told myself, like, it is time. You need, now you've had your rest. And there's some answers you need to, it's time, really? So I do think there was a big spiritual thing that happened to me during that whole course of time.
Wow. Well, maybe you can come back and we can talk about that sometime if you're open to that.
Yeah, I would love to.
That'd be great. Yeah. Nicole, thank you so much. I feel so enlightened, and I want to go get a CBC done so I can send it to you. And
make sure it's with a differential. Make sure you get a CBC with you. I know because you're a nurse, but a lot of people out there don't know there is a difference between just a CBC and a CBC with differential. So we want to see that differential. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for sharing it with us. And
thank you for having me on. I feel like this is just such a blessing, and I'm just so honored. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. I see you in the chat room. I'm going to get to all of your questions and your comments. And don't forget, we've got Broadcast Team Alpha, our Tuesday night show at 8 p.m. Eastern. We have the new paranormal show that Augie's doing 8 p.m. on Sunday. And we still have the Quantum Wellbeing Show every Friday night at 7:30. So much love, everybody. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Mac. We'll see you next